I never thought I'd find myself in a position like this, but here we are. My name is Jake, and I'm about to share the messy, painful, and ultimately transformative experience of discovering that my wife, Amanda, was cheating on me. For what it's worth, we had been married for 5 years. 5 years of what I thought was a happy marriage. We had our ups and downs, but I believed we were building a life together. It wasn't until the last few months that I started noticing something was off. At first, it was subtle. Amanda started coming home later and later from her girls' night out. She would frequently say she lost track of time at the bar, laughing it off when I'd express concern. I could tell she was avoiding eye contact, and there was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself that maybe she was just going through a phase. After all, we all have our moments, right? But then, the little signs began piling up. She started changing her phone password frequently, and when I asked her about it, she shrugged it off like it was no big deal. Just wanted some privacy, she said with a dismissive wave. I felt my stomach twist at her casualness. It was the kind of lie that just didn't add up. And then there was the lipstick, bright red, smeared all over her coffee mug one morning. It wasn't hers. The real bombshell came when I accidentally stumbled upon an incriminating text on her phone one Saturday afternoon. I was just trying to fix a minor issue with her phone when a message from a contact named Rick popped up, flashing on the screen. "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe. You're the best part of my week." I felt the blood drain from my face. I read that message over and over, hoping that I was just misinterpreting it, but deep down I knew. My mind raced. Who the hell was this Rick? Why was my wife calling some bartender babe? I could hardly breathe, my heart pounding in my chest like it wanted to escape. I could feel the rage building up inside me, but I had to confront her calmly. I didn't want to jump to conclusions without hearing her side. Even though I felt betrayed and furious, I knew I had to gather more information before I blew the lid off this whole thing. When Amanda got home, I pretended everything was normal. We sat down for dinner, but I could barely eat. As we talked about our day, I could see her fidgeting, sensing my unease. After a few minutes of small talk, I finally mustered the courage to bring it up. "Hey, you got a message from Rick today." Her face went pale. Just a flicker of panic crossed her features before she threw up her defenses. "Oh, that's just someone from work. He's harmless. You know how it is, just a friend." I felt the anger rising again, but I took a deep breath and pressed on. "A friend, really? Because it sounds like you two are a bit more than friends if you're calling him babe." I watched her squirm as her initial confidence crumbled. "Come on, Jake. You're overreacting. It's not what you think." She stammered, trying to backtrack. I couldn't believe the audacity of her lying straight to my face. As she continued to deny, my emotions shifted from anger to disappointment. It was as if I was watching someone I loved morph into a stranger. I needed answers, and I felt so lost. I confronted her with everything I had learned over the last few weeks, expecting her to break down or confess, but instead she became defensive. "Why are you acting like this? It's just a little bit of fun, Jake. You always overthink everything," she snapped. That was it. Her dismissal of my feelings, her blatant disregard for our marriage, it all shattered any remaining trust I had in her. I felt the weight of betrayal crushing down on me. I had trusted her, loved her, and in return she was sleeping with a bartender. Suddenly, I felt a clarity emerge from the chaos. This wasn't just about her infidelity. It was about the way she treated me. I was done with the excuses and lies. I needed to figure out how to take control of my life. I decided it was time to enact my plan for revenge. I would not let her walk away unscathed. With the knowledge of her affair burning in my gut, I started plotting my next move. Needless to say, I had a lot to think about, and my heart was heavy with a mix of pain and vengeance. My mind was racing with possibilities, and I was determined to ensure she wouldn't be able to see that bartender again. After that confrontation, a storm brewed inside me. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering between heartbreak and a desperate desire for revenge. I needed to do something that would not only put her in her place but also reclaim my power. My mind turned to that bar, the very place where she had found comfort in someone else's arms. It was a place that had once been a part of our lives, but now it was a painful reminder of her betrayal. The bar was called the Copper Lounge, a trendy little spot that Amanda and I used to enjoy together. I remembered our nights there, laughing over drinks, the clinking of glasses, and the warmth of a shared experience. But now, the thought of that place filled me with rage. I knew I had to act. I'd heard through mutual friends that the bar was up for sale, and my heart raced at the idea of buying it. This could be my chance to take control of my life and erase her access to that bartender, who I now viewed as the enemy. As I started to formulate my plan, I began researching the bar's ownership. I contacted a local real estate agent who specialized in commercial properties and learned that the owners were indeed looking to sell. The idea of owning the Copper Lounge felt surreal, but I was determined to make it a reality. I knew it wouldn't be cheap, but I had some savings set aside, and I was ready to deplete them if it meant gaining closure. I remember the night I finally decided to go through with it. I sat down with a glass of whiskey, my mind racing. The thought of Amanda waltzing into that bar, laughing and flirting with that bartender while I sat at home feeling betrayed, was unbearable. I needed to take action. I contacted the owners the next day and arranged a meeting. When I walked into that bar for the first time after making the decision, it felt electric. I could almost hear the laughter and music that had filled space, but all I felt was a burning desire to reclaim what was mine. The meeting went surprisingly well. I laid out my intentions, and the owners were eager to make a deal. With a hefty down payment, I secured my ownership of the Copper Lounge. I felt a rush of adrenaline as the paperwork was finalized. It was like winning a battle, but I knew that the real fight was just beginning. I had to think about how I would execute my revenge. First on my list was to fire the bartender, Rick. I had no tolerance for the man who had crossed the line with my wife. I started plotting how I would let him go. I wanted to ensure that he never stepped foot in that bar again, that he would never have the opportunity to charm Amanda or any other woman who walked through those doors. I had to make it clear that he was no longer welcome. I called a staff meeting the day after closing, explaining my vision for the bar and the changes I wanted to implement. All eyes were on me, but I could feel the tension in the air. I took a deep breath and spoke with conviction. We're going in a new direction here at the Copper Lounge. I want to create an atmosphere that feels welcoming, classy, and above all, trustworthy. That means some changes to the staff. I could see some staff members shifting uncomfortably, and I knew they were speculating about who might be cut. Then I dropped the bombshell. Effective immediately, Rick will no longer be working here. I saw the collective gasp from the staff, and I didn't care. The satisfaction I felt was overwhelming. I was taking control. I added, I've heard too many complaints about his behavior towards female patrons, and I won't tolerate it in my establishment. I could see the disbelief on their faces, but I was done caring about repercussions. I needed to ensure Rick felt the weight of my decision. I could almost picture Amanda's reaction when she found out. She'd have to face the reality of what she'd lost, not just in her relationship but in her social life as well. This was going to be a hard lesson for her. That evening, after the meeting, I settled in at the bar. My bar now, and observed the atmosphere. It was strange being on the other side of the counter. I could hear the chatter of patrons and the clinking of glasses, but it felt different now. It was as if I had stepped into a new role, one that came with a sense of authority and control. I was no longer the husband who had been cheated on. I was the owner, and I was the one calling the shots. In the following days, I made sure Rick's departure was known. I made announcements on social media and put up signs in the bar, highlighting the new management. It was all part of my plan to cut off Amanda's access to him completely. I could almost feel the weight lifting off my shoulders with every day that passed without Rick. I imagined Amanda's frustration when she found out that the very place she used to escape to was now entirely off-limits to her. But it wasn't just about her. It was about me taking back my life, my dignity, and my self-respect. The emotional toll of betrayal still lingered like a dark cloud over my days. I was still processing the sorrow and anger, but with every move I made, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. With every drink poured and every patron who walked through the door, I was reclaiming my identity. I had a lot more to work through, and I knew that this was just the beginning of a long journey, but I felt empowered. I wanted to show her that I was stronger than she thought. I was ready for the fallout. As the days turned into weeks, I settled into my new role as the owner of the Copper Lounge. It became my sanctuary, a place where I could channel all my pain and anger into something productive. I worked late into the night, revamping the menu, decorating the interior, and ensuring that the staff understood my vision for the bar. I wanted it to thrive, to become a hotspot in the neighborhood, an establishment where infidelities and heartbreaks couldn't linger. But despite the busy work, thoughts of Amanda continued to haunt me. I felt like I was caught in a game of chess, and I was trying to anticipate her next move. Would she come to the bar? Would she bring her friends? I knew that if she found out I had bought the place, it would likely drive her to visit. The very thought made my blood boil. I prepared myself for that eventuality, knowing that I would have to confront her sooner or later. One Friday night, the bar was packed. I was behind the counter, pouring drinks and chatting with customers, feeling more in control than ever. That's when I saw her walk in. Amanda looked different. She was dressed to the nines, her usual casual attire replaced by a stunning red dress that clung to her body. She looked beautiful, but all I felt was a surge of anger. I could see her scanning the bar, probably looking for Rick, unaware that he was long gone. My heart raced as I debated my next move. Should I confront her right then and there? Or let her enjoy the shock of realizing her favorite haunt had been taken over? I decided on the latter. I watched her from behind the bar as she approached a small group of friends. They were laughing and enjoying themselves, but I could see the moment she noticed the changes. "What happened to Rick?" she asked, her voice tinged with confusion. "He's not here anymore," one of her friends replied, and I could almost hear the gears turning in Amanda's head as she put the pieces together. The expression on her face morphed from confusion to realization, and suddenly she turned to look at me. Our eyes locked, and I felt a jolt of electricity shoot through the air between us. "Jake," she called out, her voice almost a whisper, as if she couldn't believe her eyes. I smirked, leaning casually against the bar. "Surprised to see me. Welcome to my bar, Amanda." Her expression shifted to one of disbelief. "You bought this place?" she asked, trying to maintain her composure. "Yep," I replied, pouring a drink for a nearby customer without breaking eye contact. "Thought it was time for a little change. Didn't want you to feel too comfortable here anymore." I watched as a range of emotions crossed her face: shock, anger, and maybe a hint of regret. "You can't just take this place away from me," she exclaimed, her voice rising slightly above the chatter. I leaned closer to her, lowering my voice to a whisper. "I didn't take anything away, Amanda. You gave it up the moment you decided to sleep with Rick." Her jaw dropped, and for a moment she looked vulnerable. The confident facade she wore cracked, and I could see the hurt behind her eyes. "You don't know what you're talking about," she shot back, but there was a tremor in her voice that betrayed her. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," I replied, my tone icy. "I found your texts. I saw the way you looked at him. I heard you talk about him with your friends. You didn't just have a little fun, you crossed a line." I felt a rush of satisfaction as the truth hung between us. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For a moment, the bustling bar faded into the background, and it was just the two of us standing there, locked in a battle of wills. "Why, Amanda?" I asked, my voice dropping an octave. "Was I not enough? Did I not give you everything you wanted?" Her bravado crumbled further, and she looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "Jake, it was a mistake," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was lonely. You were always working late, and I needed someone to talk to. I couldn't help but scoff. So you turned to Rick, a bartender. That's your excuse. Don't do this here," she said, glancing around nervously as if she suddenly realized how vulnerable she was in front of her friends. "Can we talk about this somewhere else?" "No," I replied firmly. "This is my bar now, and I'm not going to hide from the truth. You need to understand the consequences of your actions." She opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. "You wanted to play, and now you're going to face the music. You'll never come here again, not without me knowing." I turned to walk away, feeling a mix of triumph and sadness. I had addressed the elephant in the room, but it was just the beginning. I could see her processing everything I had said, and it felt good to finally have the upper hand. As the night continued, I noticed Amanda trying to talk to her friends. But I could see she was shaken. I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. She had walked into my territory, and now she realized that she had lost much more than just a night out at the bar. She had lost control over her social life. I had made my point, but deep down, I was still grappling with the emotional fallout. I was hurt, angry, and yet a part of me felt empowered. I had turned the tables, and with each passing moment in the copper lounge, I felt a sense of closure begin to settle in. But I knew that this wasn't over. There were still more discussions to have, more feelings to process, and perhaps the hardest part of all, deciding whether I wanted to salvage any part of our relationship. After that confrontation in the bar, a heavy silence settled over me. I had taken a significant step in reclaiming my life, yet the emotional toll it took was exhausting. I was still processing the hurt and betrayal, but I felt a newfound strength surging within me. I could no longer allow Amanda to dictate the terms of our relationship or my feelings. The next few days passed in a blur. I was busy managing the bar, closing late and focusing on the renovations I had planned. But even in a bustling environment, I felt an emptiness gnawing at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to address the situation with Amanda further, to clarify what the future held for us, if there even was a future. One evening, I was wrapping up another busy night when I spotted Amanda sitting at the bar, alone and nursing a drink. My heart sank at the sight of her. I had hoped she would stay away, but part of me knew she would eventually return. Our eyes met, and for a moment I felt that familiar mix of anger and longing. She looked vulnerable, her makeup slightly smudged, and the usually confident woman I had known seemed to be fading before my eyes. I hesitated, but the urge to confront her again was too strong. I stepped behind the bar and poured myself a drink. "You shouldn't be here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up at me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I know, but I needed to talk to you, Jake. Can we please just have an honest conversation?" I sighed, my resolve wavering. "What's there to say, Amanda? You made your choice and it wasn't me." "I made a mistake," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I've realized how much I've hurt you and I want to fix this. I want to explain myself. I couldn't give in so easily." "Explain what? How you fell into bed with another man? Please, just listen," she said, her voice rising slightly, attracting the attention of a few patrons. "I need you to understand what led to this. I felt so alone. You were always working late and I didn't feel loved. I didn't think it would go that far, I swear." I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "So you thought cheating was the solution? You could have talked to me, Amanda. Instead, you chose betrayal." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she struggled to find the right words. "I know I messed up. I wish I could take it back, Jake. That night was a huge mistake, but I miss you. I miss us." I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crack. The truth was, I missed her too. But did that mean I could forgive her or even trust her again? "You say you want to fix this, but how can I trust you when you've broken my heart?" "Let me prove it," she said desperately. "Give me a chance to show you how serious I am. I will stay away from the bar. I'll cut off all contact with Rick. Please, just consider it." Her words hung heavy in the air. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but I also knew how manipulative she could be. "I don't know if I can believe you, Amanda. It's hard to just forget everything." "I know I've hurt you, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right," she insisted. "I've been going to therapy to understand why I did it. I want to change. I want to work on our marriage." A part of me wanted to believe her. It had been years since I'd felt that kind of connection with her, and I missed the warmth, the companionship, the laughter we once shared. But then I reminded myself of the betrayal. The anger surged again and I felt conflicted. "Let's say I consider your offer. What happens if I let you back into my life? How do I know this won't happen again?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with uncertainty. "I can't promise it'll be easy, but I'll be honest with you from now on. I'll put in the work to rebuild your trust," she replied earnestly. "I'll give you all my passwords, let you see my phone. You can hold me accountable." I took another sip of my drink, contemplating her words. It was a tempting offer, honesty and transparency. But could I really trust her again? Would I be able to forgive her? And what about myself? Could I let go of the anger and pain she had caused? I need time, I finally said, my voice softer than I intended. I don't know how to process all of this right now. Just know that I love you, Jake, she said, her eyes pleading. I'm willing to fight for us if you'll let me. Those words struck me like a lightning bolt. Love. Could I still love her after everything that had happened? I wanted to say yes, but the fear of being hurt again gripped me tightly. I need more than words, Amanda. I need action, I replied, my voice firm again. You need to show me you're serious. She nodded, wiping her tears away. I will. I promise. We stood there in silence for a moment, the weight of our conversation pressing heavily upon us. I could feel the tension in the air, the unresolved emotions swirling between us. I'll think about it, I finally said, my voice heavy with uncertainty. As I walked away from her, I felt a mix of hope and trepidation. I knew this wasn't just about her betrayal anymore. It was about me, my journey, and my healing. I couldn't ignore the love I still felt for her, but I also couldn't allow myself to be a doormat. The stakes were high, and I was standing at a crossroads. I had to be cautious. Would I let her back in, or was it better to cut my losses and move on? The answer lingered in the air, tantalizing and painful at the same time. After that emotionally charged encounter with Amanda at the bar, I found myself in a state of constant turmoil. Every day was a battle between the desire to reconcile and the need to protect myself from further heartache. I spent my days at the Copper Lounge, pouring drinks, chatting with customers, and working hard to create a vibrant atmosphere. But my thoughts kept drifting back to Amanda. I had given her a glimmer of hope by saying I would think about her offer to work on our marriage, but in reality I was terrified. The fear of being blindsided again loomed over me like a dark cloud. I still felt the sting of betrayal, and no matter how much I tried to focus on the bar, my mind kept circling back to her. What if she was sincere? What if she really wanted to change? One evening, a group of regulars came in, and among them was Tom, an old friend from college. We struck up a conversation, and I couldn't help but vent my frustrations about Amanda. Man, I'm telling you, she's back and she wants to fix things, I said, frustration seeping into my voice. But how can I trust her again? Tom nodded, listening intently. It's a tough situation, Jake, but you have to think about what you want. Can you see a future with her? If you can't, then maybe it's time to cut ties. I thought I could, but now I'm not so sure, I admitted, running my fingers through my hair. I miss her, but I also feel like I'd just be opening myself up to more pain. Listen, he said, leaning closer. You deserve to feel secure in your relationship. If she truly wants to make things right, it's on her to prove it. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your peace of mind. His words resonated with me. I needed to find a way to establish boundaries while also giving Amanda the chance to redeem herself. That night, as I closed up the bar, I began to devise a plan. If I was going to consider giving her another shot, I needed to lay down the ground rules, clear expectations and consequences. The next time I saw Amanda was a few days later. I had taken some time to think, and I was ready to talk. I invited her to meet me at a coffee shop close to the bar. As I waited for her to arrive, my heart raced. I felt both nervous and hopeful. Would she be willing to embrace the changes I was proposing? When she walked in, I noticed that she looked more put together than our last encounter. The sadness in her eyes was still there, but there was a hint of determination as well. I gestured for her to sit, and she looked at me expectantly. Thanks for meeting me, I began, my voice steady. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Me too, she replied, leaning forward. I really appreciate you giving me this chance to talk. I want to be clear with you, I said, cutting to the chase. If we're going to move forward, we need ground rules. This can't just be about words, it has to be about actions. Agreed, she said, nodding vigorously. Whatever it takes. First, I need transparency. I want access to your phone, your messages, everything, I declared. I can't rebuild trust without knowing you're being honest with me. She hesitated for a moment, and I could see the uncertainty flicker in her eyes. Okay, I understand. I'll share everything with you. I don't want to hide anything. Good. Second, I want you to cut off all contact with Rick. I know that might be difficult, but it's necessary. I can't have you slipping back into old habits. If you go back to that bar, you can't see him. No exceptions. Amanda looked down, her expression pained. I understand. I'll do it. I can't let him come between us again. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. And lastly, we need to work on communication. If something bothering you, I want you to tell me. No more secrets, no more lies. I want us to be partners again. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears again. I promise I'll be open with you. I want to make this work. As we delved into deeper discussions, I could see her sincerity. She spoke about her therapy sessions, her realizations about her actions, and the loneliness that had driven her to seek validation elsewhere. I listened intently, trying to gauge whether she was truly committed to change or if this was just a temporary fix for her guilt. I know I've hurt you and I can't take back what I did, but I want to be better for you, for us, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. I could feel my defenses softening, but I knew I had to remain cautious. I want to believe you, Amanda, but it's going to take time for me to trust you again. Take all the time you need, she said earnestly. I'm willing to fight for us. As we finished our conversation, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like there might be a way forward. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe we could rebuild what had been broken. Over the next few weeks, I kept close tabs on our agreement. Amanda was diligent about being transparent, showing me her phone and even sharing her therapy notes. I was grateful for her effort, but I still felt an undercurrent of mistrust lingering beneath the surface. I made it a point to stay involved in her life. I would call her more often, check in, and ensure she was sticking to her promise of staying away from Rick. Every time she texted me, I felt a mix of happiness and apprehension. I wanted to believe her, but the fear of being blindsided again was hard to shake off. Then came the night I had been both dreading and anticipating, Amanda's birthday. I wanted it to be special, a way for us to reestablish our connection. So I planned a surprise celebration at the Copper Lounge, inviting close friends and some of our favorite regulars. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to showcase our commitment to each other. As the night unfolded, the bar buzzed with laughter, and Amanda's eyes sparkled with delight as she walked in. She was surprised to see all her friends gathered, and for a moment she seemed genuinely happy. I felt a swell of pride as I watched her interact with everyone, a warmth spreading in my chest. But as the evening progressed, I noticed something unsettling. Amanda had too many drinks. She seemed to be letting loose and enjoying herself a little too much for my comfort. I watched her flirt with some of the other patrons, and my stomach twisted with unease. When she stumbled slightly while trying to pour herself another drink, I knew I had to step in. I approached her, placing a gentle hand on her arm. Hey, maybe it's time to slow down a little. She turned to me, her eyes glassy but still bright. Oh, come on, Jake. It's my birthday. I'm just having fun. I get that, but I don't want you to overdo it, I replied, my voice firm but caring. We don't want a repeat of last time, do we? Moment hung heavy in the air, and for a brief second I saw her defenses rise again. I'm fine, you're being overprotective. I felt my heart drop. There it was, the tension creeping back in. I'm just trying to look out for you, Amanda. I want you to enjoy your night, not end up regretting it tomorrow. She rolled her eyes and stormed off, grabbing another drink on her way to the bar. I followed her, my heart racing. Maybe we should just go home, I suggested, trying to remain calm. No. I don't want to go home. This is my night. She snapped back, her voice rising above the music. I could see the frustration building inside me, but I didn't want to escalate the situation. We can celebrate together, just not like this, I said, struggling to stay composed. She glared at me, her frustration palpable. You're acting like you don't trust me. I thought we were past that. Her words cut deep, igniting a fire within me. I'm trying to trust you, but nights like this make it hard, Amanda. The tension between us was suffocating, and I could feel the weight of our unresolved issues beginning to crack the fragile truce we had built. As I looked around at the joyful atmosphere of the bar, I couldn't help but feel a wave of disappointment wash over me. I had invested so much effort into repairing our relationship, and yet here we were, on the brink of yet another argument. The tension in the bar intensified as Amanda and I faced off. It felt like I was watching our relationship on the brink of collapse again, teetering dangerously close to the edge. I could see the disbelief and anger in her eyes, and it mirrored my own frustration. This was not how I wanted to celebrate her birthday, yet here we were at an impasse. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Amanda, I'm not trying to ruin your night. I want to support you, but I also need to protect myself. We're still healing from what happened, and nights like this remind me of how fragile we really are. She hesitated, her anger giving way to uncertainty. I could see the spark of realization flickering in her eyes. Sorry, Jake. I just wanted to feel free tonight. I didn't mean to push you away. The sincerity in her tone softened my heart. Maybe she was just trying to let loose to reclaim some sense of normalcy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that her acting out was a sign of deeper issues we still needed to address. Let's not make this night about fighting, I said, my voice quieter now. Let's focus on what we can do moving forward. We talked about working through our problems, right? This isn't helping. She looked around at the friends who were still enjoying the celebration. You're right, she said, letting out a long sigh. I'm sorry for snapping. I just felt overwhelmed and I didn't want to ruin the moment. Neither do I replied, gently placing my hand on her shoulder. Let's just breathe and enjoy the night together. We can work through this later. She nodded, relief evident in her eyes, and a tentative smile began to form on her lips. Okay, let's just have some fun. As the evening wore on, we managed to patch things up. The atmosphere lightened, laughter filled the air again, and we danced together, letting the music wash away our earlier conflict. I felt a flicker of hope, a reminder that while we might stumble, we could also find our way back to each other amidst the chaos. However, as the night wore on and the drinks flowed, I kept my guard up. I could still feel the shadows of doubt lurking in the back of my mind, but for now, I wanted to focus on the positives. Amanda was trying, and so was I when the celebration came to an end. I walked her back to her apartment, the air cool and crisp. As we stood outside, I turned to her, searching for the right words. Tonight was a step forward, but I want to make sure we don't lose this momentum. We need to keep communicating openly or we'll slip back into old habits. She nodded earnestly. I promise, Jake, I'll do my part to be better. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you either. But I need to know that I can trust you, I replied, my voice filled with sincerity. She wrapped her arms around me, pulling me close. I'll prove it to you, just give me time. I held her tightly, feeling a mix of comfort and apprehension. I wanted to believe her, but my heart was still cautious. Time is what we both need. I want to see real change, Amanda. As we parted, I felt a bittersweet sense of resolve. I was willing to give our relationship another shot, but I also knew that the road ahead would be rocky. We had a lot to work through, and it wouldn't happen overnight. Trust was fragile, and while I was ready to take a step forward, I wouldn't allow myself to be blindsided again. In the following weeks, we both committed to our promise of communication. We met regularly to check in, discussing our feelings openly. I could see Amanda's efforts as she worked on herself in therapy, and she became more transparent with me. It felt like we were slowly rebuilding the foundation of our relationship, but the scars remained. Then came the moment I had been waiting for, the ultimate test of our newfound commitment. One evening, I was closing up the bar when I received a text from Amanda. She was at a nearby cafe and had run into Rick. My heart raced and anxiety flooded my mind. I remembered our agreement and the moment felt like a crossroads. I took a deep breath and called her. Amanda, I got your text. What happened? She hesitated and I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. I was surprised to see him, but I didn't talk to him. I swear, Jake, I just walked past him. I felt a mix of relief and doubt. Did he see you? Yeah, but I ignored him. I didn't want to engage. I promise I'm serious about this. I paused, weighing her words carefully. Okay, but this is a test for us. I need you to be honest. If you feel tempted or if you think of reaching out, you have to tell me. I will, I promise, she said, her voice sincere. That moment marked a shift in our relationship. It was a test of trust, and while I was still apprehensive, I felt a flicker of hope. I wanted to believe that we could move past the pain and work toward a future together. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself reflecting on the lessons I had learned throughout this tumultuous experience. Pain and betrayal had forced me to confront my insecurities, but it also revealed my strength. I had taken control of my life, transformed what was once a painful reminder into a space of healing and growth. I learned that love isn't just about the good times, it's also about navigating the tough moments together. I began to see our relationship not just as a series of mistakes but as an opportunity for renewal. In the end, Amanda and I emerged from the darkness stronger, albeit scarred. We still had a long way to go, but I felt a new sense of hope. I never would have imagined that I would own the very place that had once represented my betrayal, but now it stood as a testament to my journey of resilience. Maybe love could triumph over pain after all. I took a deep breath, ready for whatever the future held, knowing that we were both willing to fight for what we had built together. And as the doors of the Copper Lounge swung open each night, I felt a sense of purpose, embracing the possibilities ahead together.